going on, guys? So today I'm going to make a very special video about how Iris got her name. I always see people asking this in the comment section, so I thought, why not just make a video about it and tell the story? So first of all, I just want to say if any of the names that I mention in this video are your name or someone you know's name, please don't get offended. This was just like my personal deal and my crazy pregnant thoughts during the time that I was pregnant. So, alright, I will get on with this story. It was actually really hard for me to think of a name for Iris. It was a tough process. She did not have a name my whole pregnancy, and actually when you watch the vlogs that we filmed when she was born, John says, we'll tell you her name later when we decide to. That wasn't because we were trying to keep her name a secret. That was because she didn't have a name for a little while after she was born. She didn't have a name for like a day or so in the hospital. So, like, when you're pregnant and trying to think of a name, it's crazy how hard it is. Well, a name is just so permanent. There's so much pressure involved with it. So when I was pregnant, I really wanted to name my daughter something that was unique, but not too weird, too crazy, like Apple or something like that. I didn't want a name like that, but I wanted her to have a name that every other kid didn't have, like that. I didn't want her to have a name that was so very common, you know, like your Emily's, or I think Olivia was really common this year, like Olivia's, Isabella's. I was constantly checking the popularity ranks of names so to make sure that I didn't get something that was like really up there on the list. Are you chewing on your fingers? So everything was ruining a name for me. It was so crazy. John would mention a name and I'd be like, I went to high school with someone with that name. We can't name her that. If I already knew someone with that name, it would ruin it for me. I wanted her to have her own identity. So I couldn't personally know someone with the name that she was going to have. Like also John, at one point John said that he really liked the name Caitlin. I'm like, John, we have about 6 friends with the name Caitlin. We can't name her Caitlin. He liked a kid having the nickname Cat. And then I said, well, I kind of like Katrina. What about Katrina? And John said, no, Katrina's a hurricane. We can't do that. But apparently there's a Hurricane Iris, too. Someone tweeted me that. There's so many hurricanes with different names. But we didn't know about that then. So for the longest time, I really liked the name Violet. Before I was pregnant, I would always tell myself, if I have a little girl, her name is going to be Violet. I love that name. And that was like in my head for a while when I was pregnant. I was like, okay, her name is going to be Violet when she's born. And then randomly one day it hit me and I said, wait a minute, her last name is Dahl. If we name her Violet, her initials are going to be VD. We can't do that, and that ruined it for me. And I kept going back and forth like, well, maybe that isn't really a big deal. And I told my dad's like, oh, yes, it is. When she's in high school, people will say, there goes VD Dahl. I'm like, okay, like, awesome. I'm like, people don't even really say VD anymore, don't they? But then as I was checking the name popularity, Violet is becoming like trendy. It's projected to be like one of the most popular names pretty soon. So I started exploring. I'm starting to get like towards the part where I actually decide on her name, Iris. I started exploring names kind of in that genre. So I always liked names that were kind of like old lady chic, and I liked nature names a lot too. Old lady chic is what I call it. So Violet led me to another flower, Iris, which is also old lady chic. And at first, like when I saw it, I didn't really think too much about it. And then like later on in my pregnancy, I was like, Iris. I really like the name Iris. But then something about Iris did end up bugging me. I'm like, I think when I told Nate or something, Nate's like, what, iris, like a part of your eye? People still do that sometimes. I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. And I was talking to Caitlin And I mentioned that to her, and she was like, Nikki, you gotta stop letting everything ruin a name for you, because there's always gonna be something. Isn't that right, Iris? There's always gonna be something, and if you keep doing that, you're never gonna find a name. And I was like, okay, I guess I can let that go. Iris is the name that I hate the least. And actually what one of my other friends said that kind of made me feel better about that was, yes, but it's the colorful part of your eye, the window to the soul. But then I also started to really like the meaning behind Iris. Well, iris is also a flower. It's one of my favorite flowers. I think irises are beautiful. But Iris, where this name like actually originated, Iris was the... Simon, what are you doing? Simon just jumped up and he's sniffing the camera. Okay, so Iris was the Greek goddess who brought the rainbow across the sky. And I thought to myself, that has some really beautiful symbolism behind that. So if I name my daughter Iris, it's like she's bringing color and beauty into our life. And I thought that was just so beautiful. And I really enjoyed, I really liked that meaning behind that. Iris, bringing color and beauty into our life. And Iris wasn't in the top 100 of popular names. It was like even more than 200. Still for a while, I wasn't set on it. I wasn't sure. Towards the very end of my pregnancy, I think the two names that were in the running were Gwen and Iris. Well, Gwyneth. So then when she was born, I was like, I don't know what to name her. We don't have to name her yet. Just give me time. Let me think some more. And then finally John was like, you want to name her Iris? Let's name her Iris. And I said, John, I thought you didn't really like that name. And John's like, no, I do like the name Iris. It's a pretty name for a pretty girl. A pretty name for a pretty girl. Huh. Yeah. Pretty name for a pretty girl? You looking at your mama? Oh, she smiled. And even when he went to go hand in, so they give you like a declaration of birth or something that you fill out and you write the name, then you have to go hand it in to the records person at the hospital. Even when he left with that, I was like, wait a minute, did I make the right choice? And then when he brought back the paper all printed out and it said Iris and Dahl, all written out, I was like, I really like that. I love how it looks written out. I think we did pick the perfect name. And, you know, I love it. I've been loving it more and more every single day. She just is Iris. Like, it fits her so perfectly. And I never personally met someone else named Iris. I think there's a good chance that she's not going to have a bunch of Irises in her class when she goes to school like me. There were a bunch of other Nicoles in my grade. I really like it. I think that it's a beautiful name, right? This is Iris and Dahl. Doesn't that fit you? And a lot of my friends say they like it a lot too. I've gotten really positive feedback from it. They're like, wow, Iris is a nice, unique name, and it's pretty cool. Oh, and real quick, if you guys want to know where Anne came from, Anne was John's choice. John chose the middle name. Throughout the whole pregnancy, he was kind of like, well, you'll have final say on the first name, so since you're doing most of the work, and I can pick the middle name, and he picked Anne because Anne is a family name. I think Anne is his mom's middle name. Yeah. So everybody, that is how Iris Ann Dahl got her name. My beautiful girl. My beautiful Iris Ann Dahl, bringing color and beauty into our lives. So don't give someone crap about what they decided to name their baby, because chances are they spent a long time thinking about it, and it was a very hard decision.